Hey, what's up guys? This is Zach Kleindinst with beautiful eXp Realty down here in beautiful sunny South Florida, West Palm Beach. Hope you guys are doing well. This is a message today for all of my real estate agent friends out there. Guys, I've been fortunate enough in my business to be able to sell over 700 homes in the last 7 years. And I want to just start bringing value to you. My light just turned off behind me, so I apologize if you have to see this ugly mug with no light and now the filter or the light is a little bit different. But anyway, I got a phone call today. So about a week, actually it's been about 2 weeks ago, I did a little seminar with a group of mine down here. Shout out to Chad and to Sherry for inviting me over to your group and for allowing me to speak and bring some value to your group. But anyway, I had a person sitting here, an agent, that reached out to me after the meeting and they said, Zach, how are you making these outbound phone calls? How are you moving from a whole different location and having a successful business up north to be able to just pack up and move your business down south? How do you have that confidence to do so? And the reason why I have the confidence is because I know sales, number one. And number two, I know how to make the cold calls to expired listings or to for sale by owners. And again, have a great conversation with them with the hopes and the goal of getting a listing to help them sell their home. Because at the end of the day, I believe personally I have an ethical obligation that I should be helping them and at least letting them know that I'm here to help them because I do provide great service. I have a great business and I provide them the best service to get them to the closing table, whether they have to deal with an inspection issue, an appraisal issue, a title issue, or buyer's financing, all that stuff, right? I know how to get to the closing table and they might not have that experience. So we as agents, we have an ethical obligation to let these sellers know that we're here to help if they need it. But let me bring this full circle. The agent called me today. I met with him last week or 2 weeks ago at that seminar. They asked what program I'm using. I told them I'm using RedX for expireds, and for sale by owners, I just go to Zillow, homes for sale by owner, and I type in the city that I want to do my phone calls in, which just happen to be whether it's West Palm Beach or Jupiter or Coral Springs or Fort Lauderdale, it doesn't matter. But the agent asked me today, he called me up and said, hey Zach, I love the expired scripts that you go over, but how do you approach the for sale by owners? Because the way he was doing it, he told me, he said, look, I'm calling these for sale by owners, I'm telling them that I have a buyer for their home, I'm going to look at the home, and what I'm finding is that they're getting upset that I'm not bringing my buyer with me, and at the end of the day, Zach, I don't really have a buyer for their home. I'm just trying to get in the door to get them to want to work with me. And guys, that's the worst thing you could do. I used to do it all the time as a brand new real estate agent because remember, we just want to have that initial conversation with somebody to get them to open up to us and to get our foot in the door with them. So what do you say? Hey, I have a buyer for your home. Can I come take a look at it for them? That's the wrong thing to say. Because why? Because if you as an agent, if you're an ethical person, deep down inside, when you get in that door, you feel terrible. You have regrets. You're like, listen, you feel like you're in the house to look at it for a buyer. The seller thinks that you're in it for the same reason, so you lied to them, and you don't have a way to transition that conversation to them to ask for the listing or to ask to help them. So instead, what you do, so down here in Florida, we have a lot of Airbnbs, right? And we have a lot of folks moving from out of state. And this agent was obviously in my local area. So I told the agent, I said, listen, if you're having trouble with your moral standards by saying you have a buyer for it when you really don't, try this instead. I asked him, I said, look, we live in Florida, right? Of course we do. We have a lot of people migrating from New York, California, Pennsylvania, Chicago. They're all moving down to Florida. We have 1,000 people a day moving down to Florida, right? Of course we do, Zach. Yeah, we do. Okay, so why don't you approach them if it's outside of an HOA? Most homeowners associations don't allow Airbnb, but a lot of investors are buying properties down here in Florida for Airbnb. This may be the case for your area, it may not be the case for your area. I'm happy to help you out and give you some suggestions on your location depending on where you're at, because I have a lot of ideas for sale by owners of how to have a conversation to get your foot in the door and to actually build value with these people. So again, full circle here. So I said, why don't you call the homeowners outside of the HOAs, or even if they are in the HOA, you could still ask them the question. Hey, Mr. Seller, Was just wondering, in case I have a buyer or an investor or a buyer coming from out of state and they want to be a snowbird, do you know anybody around you who does Airbnb, and do you know if your home would be a good fit for that? Would love to give my clients some information about it. They're going to tell you they don't know. They're going to tell you either somebody down the street is doing Airbnb, they make good money doing it, or they're going to tell you they don't think their home would be a good fit for an investor doing Airbnb. Okay, I completely understand, but I'll tell you what, Mr. Homeowner, we have a lot of folks coming from out of state moving into Florida. We all know that. We all see it living down here. Would you be open to me doing a video tour of your property so that way I could share it with these buyers, these potential buyers, before they even make a trip down here? Because what's happening is a lot of buyers are calling on homes down here in Florida, and they're in New York, they're in California, wherever they're at. They're not going to make a trip and fly from where they're at to down to Florida without seeing the property first anyway. So you as an agent, instead of telling these homeowners that you have a buyer for their property and you want to come take a look at it, tweak it a little bit to make it more valuable. If you have a buyer, if you might have an investor, or you might have a buyer who wants to be a snowbird, they're not going to live in the house 12 months out of the year. They're going to live in the house for 6 months out of the year. That's why the Airbnb rental idea would be a good question to ask them. Or they might want to rent the house out to a long-term tenant for 6 months. That's why it's a good question to ask them. It's a legitimate question instead of saying, hey, I have a buyer for your home, right? Because you as an agent, we all know, guess what? Our job is to work with buyers. We may have a potential buyer eventually. If we don't have one now, we may have one tomorrow, who they call us, or they're a referral to us, or they're a lead that comes in, and they're looking for a home that person might have. Wouldn't it be awesome for you as the agent to be able to give your potential buyer that information? And as the homeowner, you're giving value to them without lying to them. Because now you can give them the video to use for their own marketing. Give them the option. Say, hey, if you allow me to come into your home to do a video, I'm more than happy to give you the video for your own marketing purposes. It's so much more valuable to a homeowner, because you know what's happening? Every other agent in your marketplace, every other agent in your marketplace is telling the same thing. These homeowners have heard it, they're tired of it. I've had homeowners tell me they're going to list their home for sale because they're just tired of the agents calling them to try to list their house or telling them they have a buyer for it when they really don't. They're just tired of the phone calls coming in. So agents, we have to get better at bringing value, and you can't look for that quick, I want to get in the door, do a video, and I want to list your house for sale. You can't just call them and expect them to want to list their house with you. The other agents, you have two agents. One agent that's still going to get into the house to do a tour for their made-up buyer. You have a second person who is just going straight for the throat. They're going right for the listing appointment and to get the house listed. You know, you have to take them on a first date, right? You have to go take them to a restaurant, smooze them a little bit, build the rapport, build the relationship, follow up with them after the fact. And then maybe a week from now, you have that potential to ask them, hey, I want to just touch base with you. How long is it going to go until you actually decide to list it with an agent? I know you're tired of the phone calls coming in, right? At that point, you have a reason to follow up with them versus, hey, have you thought about listing your home with a real estate agent? We'd be happy to show you how I can help you get top dollar for your home in a faster time period. That's what we're all saying. Or we're all saying we have a buyer for your home, can I come show it, right? So be the agent in your marketplace that is bringing value. Be different, right? You know how many times I've been on the phone and a lot of people have said, you know, you're just different. I feel comfortable talking with you because I'm different than the other agents. I had a $2 million property down in El Cid in the historic district of West Palm Beach here, and the homeowner, it was a for sale by owner, he told me, he said, you're just completely different. I had a more educated conversation with you than the other 20 agents who have called me to try to list my property for sale. And guess what? That homeowner sold the home by himself. I offered to help him. Obviously, I would have loved to list it, but it just wasn't the right time, right? But I at least had that chance. If they didn't sell that property, they may have listed it with me. I know I didn't have a straight up no from him, right? So it's all about building rapport, building value, and you can't do it when you claim you have a buyer for it. You go to the house, you take a tour, they ask you, Zach, will your buyer like our house, do you think? Now what are you going to say? Now you're going to get into more of a lie, and your ethical standards will not let you do it. This agent had a problem with it. That's why he called me. He had a problem with telling these people that he had a buyer for their home when he never did. So real estate agents, let's bring more value. I hope this helps, guys. Like, I really hope it helps. I love for people to comment below if you have any questions. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications. I'm gonna do more interviews like this. I'm gonna do more interviews with people sitting down one-on-one. With me doing this, talking to a camera, it's hard for me to engage more. I love to have some interviews with more people, more agents around the world to help them. I wish I could have recorded the conversation I had with the agent earlier, because we had a great conversation and he had a whole new game plan of making these for sale by owner calls after the fact. So if you guys have any questions, you guys can hit me up right here on YouTube, ask the question in the comments, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, like the video. Any questions I can help out with, you guys know how to get a hold of me. This is Zach Kleindienst. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks.